Thank you so much for coming on the show, Elvie. This is our platform, What the Heck is Music Publishing? And it's something that people don't pay attention to because once you hear the word publishing, you're thinking it's something crazy. And it is crazy because it's hard to kind of wrap your mind around it, right? But when you think about television and film, radio, magazines. Publishing goes, it covers all of those different platforms and more. And I'm great to call you a friend of about 3 years. So, Elvie, how did you get your start in this crazy music biz?
So I started when I was 18 years old, and it was my freshman year in college, and I've always loved music. And so I landed an internship at a radio station where Steve Harvey was the morning show drive person.
All right.
And after 3 months that my internship took and it was over, Steve Harvey hired me to work for his company, and I worked for his company for 9 years.
Wow. That's, even though it was a short answer, you covered plenty of the topics that I wanted to address in terms of where you got your start and who's your inspiration. So it seems to me that Steve Harvey played a huge role in your life because you basically started with him and his company, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So is that when you developed like a love for the music business and whatnot?
Yeah, I was meeting people that I used to be fans of, and it was exciting to be able to now work next to them and to be able to hire them to do different radio remote appearances or to do award shows. It was really exciting for me, especially because I was so young.
Right. I read on your website that when you asked to work with Steve, at the company, they kind of laughed. I guess some of the staff members kind of laughed. It was actually a video I watched, and then they asked you your age, and you told them your age, and then they said, well, you can sign up to be an intern, and you didn't even know what that was, right?
Yeah, at the high school that I went to, it was a public high school, and they definitely didn't tell us what internships were, so I had no idea what it was. And I'm glad that they explained to me what it was, and I landed it.
Wow. And how long were you an intern for before you got hired officially?
For 3 months.
3 months. So that means you did an amazing job. That's why you got the job, correct?
Yeah.
Wow. So, all right. So working at that company, explain to us, like, when did you make that transition into the PR, public relations? Like, when did you make
So I
that?
made the transition 5 years into working for Steve Harvey. At that time, I already had graduated from USC, and I was living in New York. And I realized that I was helping Steve Harvey make millions and millions of dollars, and my paycheck didn't reflect how much I was helping him. And so I decided
Don't
to
we
start
all?
my own company and now help other celebrities, but now actually get a percentage for branding deals.
Oh, that's super, super, super cool. So LVG, so that's basically that's the name of your company. And in fact, what I want to do, I want to go to your website real quick, LV, and just kind of talk about some of your clientele. So talk to us. So this is like these are the people that you have basically worked with and served. I've seen Shirley Strawberry on here, Nephew Tommy, Steve Harvey himself. Would you say music is the most like? Did you get more clients from the music space, or it didn't matter, or did you serve like a bunch of different people from all across different industries?
Definitely an amalgam of different industries. I don't like to focus on just one industry, because if that industry is not doing well, then my company is not going to do well. So I make sure that I always represent authors and entrepreneurs and big time executives. So
Okay.
that way, if there's one place in the entertainment industry that's suffering, that my company could still remain afloat.
Right. Let's talk about branding for a second, Elvie. Tell us about branding and the importance of branding as it relates to an artist.
It's incredibly important, especially nowadays with social media. You need to be very important, be very cautious about what you post, who you hang around with, how you dress, just everything. Because nowadays, if you wear the wrong t-shirt with the wrong slogan, your career might be over. And so now more than ever, you really need to pay attention to your brand and make sure that what's out there is positive so that you continue to get work.
And should someone worry about like trademark, like you have a brand, you have a title, is it safe to trademark that so that the artist's brand could be more protected? Like for
Yeah, definitely. I always say if you have, not just for your name, but if you have ideas or if you have different projects that you want to get going, definitely to protect your idea so that way when you are ready to do it, you have ownership and you have the right to do it first.
Great. What are some of the steps you would say for an artist to go through as far as PR? Like I'm an artist, I come to you. What are some of the steps that we have to go through as an artist? And what would you do in each of those steps?
Yeah, so the first thing I would recommend is to just get started. A lot of people hesitate and they want everything to be perfect, but there's always going to be something going on. You have to just get started. If you're an artist or an author or an athlete, publicity is the most important thing, even if you're an entrepreneur. So getting started is the number one thing. Number two is to make sure that your publicist is pitching you at least every quarter with a different angle, because you want the media outlets to get comfortable hearing your name and knowing who you are. So that way, eventually they will say yes and you wear them down. I mean, when I was working with Steve for outlets who typically wouldn't have anybody who wasn't Caucasian on their show, and year after year, I would continue to pitch, and eventually they said yes. If I were to just pitch for the first time, and he expected to get yeses from all of them, then he would be disappointed, and I would be upset, because a lot of people actually think that they could hire a publicist for 3 months and that's all you need. No, that's nothing.
Wow.
You need to have publicity year round.
So after 3 months, it doesn't stop there. Like you have to continue, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially because the entertainment industry is always changing. I get emails all the time. Someone telling me, hey, I left this magazine, now I'm at this magazine, or I left this TV show, now I'm at this radio show. And so if you want to be relevant, you need to make sure that all of the shot callers in the industry know who you are.
Wow, totally. So talk to us about the radio and TV portion. At what point do you say, okay, it's time for radio? Like, can I just come to you and say, hey, I need to get on, I need airplay, I need interviews? Is there like a due process? Is there like a system that you have that we have to go through before we get to that stage?
Yeah, definitely. What I always say is that it's not a publicist's responsibility to get your record on radio stations. That's a radio promoter's job.
Beautiful.
But if you don't have that budget, we do reach out to radio stations and we do pitch you. The return rate is not as high. The great thing is that the radio stations do know who you are because they're getting these emails because we do know them. Right. But the fact is that if they're going to get paid $1,000 to put this song on the radio, or we're going to pay them nothing and it's just publicity, somebody else's song is going to win. So it's probably going to be Diddy's or Drake's or Rihanna's or whoever has a big budget. And so if you're an artist, you need to come and know you need to have an investor so that you could pay a radio promoter so that
Right.
they could make sure to get your song on different radio stations. And eventually you end up making your money back because every time the song spins, you get paid. And so I always tell clients who are artists, get an investor, or if you have the money yourself, make an investment in yourself so you don't have to pay anybody anything. And you could be your own record label.
Wow, you are, yeah, that's, you're totally correct. And it's funny how we are living in a time where independence is like the norm. You can just stay in your bedroom and you can just get a few speakers, a good microphone, a great computer, and record something, put it up on SoundCloud, put it on YouTube, get discovered, or you don't want to sign a major deal, but you just stay right there in your house and stream. And it's just funny how everything has changed. And we did pretty well as far as the music industry. I think music went up about 12.5%, something like that, in 2017, and that's darn good. That's darn good.
That's great.
So yeah, super great. So we did very, very well. So even though we're in this digital space, it's something that to not take lightly. I still talk to people daily who sort of refuse to sort of adhere, right, to the digital world or the digital market. But I always say, if you don't comply, then where are you going to be where are you trying to go? So you have to move with the times. And talking to you just sort of puts a lot of things in perspective, because the PR, like public relations, that's super important, and sometimes we don't have the budget to do that, but it's super important. And they may try to do their own little social media blogs, but it's beyond social media blogs. You still have to get out there, get on the red carpet, certain events, meet people, shake hands. Do you still think artists should have that sort of physical bio or an EPK? Like, does it work both ways, electronic or physical?
Physical is outdated. Electronic, definitely, it's always great to have one. But even more important than that is they're not asking for EPKs anymore. They're now just asking for social media handles. And if you don't have a big social media number, the odds are that you're not going to get an interview. Because
Right.
if somebody else has millions of followers and they play their song and they promote it on their social media, like, hey, my song was just played on this radio station, then their
Yeah.
radio station benefits. But if you don't have a big social media following, the odds are no. So I always tell clients, do your work too. Like, just because I'm working doesn't mean that you get to just kick your feet up. Work on your social media, go do some photo shoots, book yourself some events so that way I have an excuse to reach out to media to promote you.
Well,
it's a grind.
Yeah. Hey, Elvie, where do you see terrestrial radio in, say, 5 years versus satellite radio and stuff? Yeah.
Well, I think that people in their cars are always going to want to listen to something, but now more than ever, people are opting to listen to things like Sirius XM or YouTube or their playlists, and less people want to listen to the radio.
I heart radio apps
over and over again. And so in 5 years, I don't think radio will be done yet. I think radio will be obsolete in maybe 15 to 20 years. But as of right now, I think it's fading out, and it's not as strong of a place where people want to promote their products. So now, instead of paying, let's say, this radio station $30,000 a month to promote Tide, they might want to give that Tide money to Tamara Mowry, who's on The Real, who could potentially get it a plug and do like 3 social media mentions. So the game has definitely changed.
Yeah, and do you so and the whole Instagram Live and Facebook Live, you know, those things are also important, and an artist should always consider those platforms. Like these platforms are free, and these to live, you can just click one button and you're live. But there's a sense of I don't know if they afraid. I mean, I do speak to those people, LV. They're like, no, I don't do live, I don't do Facebook. Like, man, what are you doing? You know, and so that freaks me out sometimes because they're trying to sing, they're trying to promote, but yet they don't want to use the tools to their advantage. Do you come across that as well?
Yeah, I get that all the time. And I tell them, if your business does not exist on social media nowadays, it just doesn't exist. And so you really need to have a social media presence in order for people to actually feel that it's validated. And so it's really important nowadays. And even if you don't like it, hire someone who does and pay them to do it.
Like you?
I do pay someone to do it.
Well, Elvie, this is really food for thought, and I just really wanted you to come on here and just to explain the importance of these different aspects and these different services that you provide. And so, you know, back to music publishing, it's something that's super important. So there are these steps, right? So I'm a music publisher, you know, Dean Reynolds Media, we handle a bunch of different independent artists, right? So, but if we don't make sure that they're protected, which is our job, or if an artist is not protected and yet he's coming to you to do PR, then you're getting him airplay on terrestrial radio, but yet he's not registered with BMI, ASCAP, or any of those societies, then it's kind of like in vain. So I think it's all one big family. So an artist should really, really protect him or herself. Metadata is important. Make sure all of the information is logged. And so when they go to you, they're kind of like have all of their ducks line up in a row, right? And so you'll look at the song. You know, I got another question. Like, is there like a preferred artist? You mentioned earlier that you don't really kind of like depend on one group per se, but if you were to name one genre like that you've really enjoyed, which genre was that? Like you really, really
enjoyed? Because it makes me laugh.
Comedy. Wow, really? Who's your favorite comedian?
That I've represented, or just in general, or that I've met?
That you represented.
That I've represented? Gosh, that's a hard one.
Yeah.
I would have to say the one that made me just bust out laughing more often than not was George Wallace.
George is a clown.
Yeah.
George, he has no sense.
Yeah, and then he makes you laugh to where, you know, when you laugh, you need to catch up so you can breathe.
Yeah.
He makes you laugh and laugh and laugh to the point where you're just like, okay, stop, I can't breathe, and you catch up, like, just wait. And so, like, and he's like that behind the scenes, in front of the scenes. My God. And usually a lot of my other clients who are comedians, they're very dark. So when they're not on the stage, they rarely talk. They don't like to communicate.
Really?
They're very quiet. They don't like to watch TV. They're always thinking. So they're not very fun to be around. But George Wallace is just fun. And like, he's the type of person where I remember we were at the TV show The Talk, and we're walking to set. Yeah. Every single person that we've seen in the hall, every producer, every PA, he had something to say to them that was like funny, but in a nice way, or like just kind, but he had everybody dying laughing.
Yeah. How was it working with nephew Tommy?
Amazing. He would probably be my second.
Yeah.
Because he is just so funny. But when he's not doing his job, he's not smiling. He's very serious because he's an actor. You know, he went to school. He's a trained actor, and he's like a Shakespearean person, and so he's very serious. A lot of people don't know that.
Wow.
And so although I really enjoy Tommy's presence, like when we go to dinner, like he's someone where I could talk to him about like history or whatever, and we have that type of intellectual conversation. Whereas with George, I probably can't even get a sentence out because he's like trying to make me laugh.
Yeah. And as Steve calls Tommy, the fool. So I can't imagine how you guys, you know, like it's always fun working with comedians. And Elvie, I cannot thank you enough for stopping by and just sharing your story. And tell us about your book before you go. You are actually an author, correct?
Yeah, thank you. My book is called Purpose, Awaken, and Succeed, and it's my second book.
Yeah.
The first book I wrote is called Your Blueprint.
Yeah.
And I've also helped tons of celebrities write their books as well. Like I helped Steve Harvey write Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man. I've done publicity.
So you're to be blamed, huh? You're to be blamed. Yeah. Telling all these stories. All these stories. I'm sorry, go ahead.
So I decided to write my book, and it's meant to awaken the reader to their best life, and it's meant to help them find their purpose in life. And it's available on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com.
Where can people find you, Elvie?
Well, my websites are elviraguzman.com, lvgpr.com for publicity, and my social media handles are Elvira Guzman LA.
Yay! Thank you so much for coming on, and I really enjoyed it, and I'll see you soon.
Definitely, it was my pleasure. Thank you again for having me, and a big hello to all of your viewers.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.